One of the main differences between what you were asked to do in middle school versus what you will be asked to do regularly in high school, not just in biology, but all of your courses, is to think in systems and apply your knowledge. What do I mean by this? Well, let me tell you a story here, because I think this is one of the best explanations that I can give you. When I started college, I had decent study habits, and I was actually quite good at memorization. My school had really trained us well in those areas, and I felt fairly well prepared for new challenges. Unfortunately, I soon discovered that my old ways of studying were not really cutting it anymore, because I was getting low B's and C's on tests, even though I was studying 2 or 3 hours a night for biology alone. After several low grades, my professor, Dr. Yuko Zylstra, how about that for a name, huh? Wrote, "Come see me," at the top of my test. So I obediently walked into his office later that afternoon to talk about my poor performance. He kindly acknowledged that he could tell I had been studying, but that I didn't have the full picture yet. In other words, I knew all the different parts of the heart, and I knew the different circuits, and I knew what had happened in the lungs, in the cells, the veins, and the arteries, all of the important stuff about how our body circulates blood. But when he asked me to tell him how a single blood cell might travel from the right atrium through the entire body and back to the right atrium where it started, I couldn't do it. It wasn't enough for me to know the individual parts and vocabulary. I really needed to connect them all together into a meaningful system. That seemed like a lot to add to my already long nights, but actually once I started studying with my focus on the system instead of the individual parts, everything changed for me. It was so much easier to remember things because they were linked in a logical manner to other things in the same system. I ended up spending less time studying because I understood the why and the how and the "if you change this, then what will happen to this" kinds of questions. Think about it this way. Here's a picture of a bicycle that has been completely disassembled. Is it important to know what each part is and what they're made of? Sure. Is it important to know how and where the different parts connect? Absolutely. Can you understand the system as a whole without knowing those basics? Probably not. If my bike is having difficulty braking, I'm not going to look at the spokes of my tires or the seat. I'm going to go directly to where the brakes rub on the wheels or maybe even the handlebars. The more we understand about the individual parts and how they connect, the better we will be able to think through what is going on in the system as a whole, and you will be asked to do this time and time again in biology. This goes for bike riding, photosynthesis, ecosystems, the human body, and pretty much everything else in biology. This does sound like a lot, I agree, but it's actually a more interesting way to learn and will help you make the learning more permanent and transferable to other systems. So go ahead and make that shift in your approach now as you begin your study journey.